Howdy, folks. This is Windy City Thetan Watch. It is June 18th, Tuesday. We're going to do a speed run of today's lunch. We had a fairly successful run out at lunch today. Just wanted to do a speed run of it. If you look at the actual live out on the street, I put chapters into it, so you'll be able to quickly go through that and jump to the spots you want to. I'm just going to quickly jump to the spots and hit the highlights real quick. So really quickly, let's do the intro.
Welcome back to a Windy City Thetan Watch, the channel where truth meets freedom, right here in the heart of Chicago. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest investigations, interviews, and insights. Your support fuels our fight for freedom and truth. So, let's dive into today's journey, armed with knowledge and the relentless spirit of the Windy City.
Howdy, folks. Okay, so we're going to do a speed run of today's events down at the org. It was fairly eventful. We haven't been able to really interact with any of the street, the body routers out on the street for the last few days. It's either been the heat, or they've been further away, or they tried to chase me off. Hi, Donette. Welcome in. So there's just been a myriad of reasons why we haven't really had much interaction with body routers, but today was fairly. We had a much better day today. So I start all the streams, and I'll start a little bit away from the org, and we'll walk up to it, and I'll tell you either a story about something that happened recently or something that's in the news. Even do the Xenu story. But on the way to the org, we actually found a Scientologist who is on their way to the org. So I'm going to put this up on there. If you look here, I think you can see my cursor, but if not, just below the blue sign, there's two figures in black. The one on the right is a female, and she's got the Scientology outfit, the Scientology uniform on. And we're going to just follow her. I'll zip through this a little bit to catch up to her.
It's an absolute abuse here that required. They don't have either.
She's going to have to stop at that light up ahead of us.
So credit cards in their names, they're still.
So what I basically did is I kind of went through a few of the crimes, and the one that I was describing was the Chase Wave. That's where Scientology would open up credit cards in their members' names. But this lady now, she is a Scientologist. A couple of things that are really interesting are going to happen real quick here. First of all, I'm going to tell her the Xenu story as she's traveling away from me, which is something that they typically aren't supposed to be able to hear unless they're prepared to hear it. So if I'm correct, I think it's OT3. And then when she goes to the org, she is going to run into somebody who she's recruited recently. And this person has just bought a book, and we'll see how this plays out. But it starts by me giving her OT3.
Known for having the largest infiltration of U.S. government, Operation Snow White. Again, the Scientologists are believing in this idea that there's a creature from many galaxies away who rounded up Thetans, brought them to Earth, threw them in a volcano, and then exploded those volcanoes with hydrogen bombs. Those fragmented Thetans then cluster on humans, and the goal of Scientology is to get you to buy courses so that you can learn how to rid yourself of these Thetans. They are anti-psychiatry. So where we know that there are chemical drugs that help balance the brain, Scientology refuses to allow their members to partake in that. And L. Ron Hubbard had a policy back in the 70s, which was called the war. And the single goal of Scientology at that point in time.
So as we're doing this, I'm saying this loud enough, she can hear me. That she's hearing what I'm saying. She may not like it. Some of it she might not understand. She might think that all of it is false, because if you're not an OT3 Scientology and you ask a Scientologist about OT3, they're going to say no. But we're about to come up, and she's about to have an interaction with I'm going to start calling them green recruits, which is the Scientology, I'd say the nicer term of what Scientology calls a fresh candidate that they're trying to draw into the cult.
Was to destroy psych. Coming up on 5 minutes to the hour.
I'm just letting them have their conversation while, I don't want to really interfere with them. It's not my right to really interfere with them. I'm going to wait until they disengage. And by the way, they'll disengage pretty quickly. They're telling a great story. It's kind of a meet and greet. How do you doing? Hey, I just joined up. I bought a book. I'm feeling great about myself. And part of me, I feel sad about this next interaction because I know that I just crushed this woman's spirit in regards to what I'm about to say.
And that's a cult, and it's a money cult. If you look at that website, you're going to find out that they do all of these crimes. So people have died at this church.
So I've just given her my business card. And if you're not aware, I have a new business card out there that gives them a scan code to a website, which shows them all a bunch of blogs about some of the crimes that Scientology partakes in. And on the other side is Zeno. It's very much in the spirit of what Tori Magoo would hand out. But we'll continue on with the conversation here.
His hands. Oh, no. So please look at that. I'm serious. All of those are true stories. You don't think anything that they do is helpful? I think at the lowest levels, it's self-help. So that book is kind of a self-help book. It's kind of a self-help book, right? And it's common sense. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to tell you that when you feel better about yourself, it was because of the book. In reality, it was common. You're going to find out that it's a lot of common sense. Okay. And then they're going to say, hey, now that you've learned this, let's go on this course. And let me spend the money on this. Let me spend the money on that. Oh, okay. You'll notice there were a lot of foreign speakers in there. They're brought over as religious migrants from other countries. They don't own their passports anymore. The church hides their passports for them. I hate that because what it is that there's a sign there that says, "Are you curious?" Correct. Now, of course, I've always been curious because you heard about different things in social media. Right. One end of the spectrum to the other, but then I heard about the thing that they do to help you with loss and grief, which is what I'm going through. Right? Correct. And so when I watched the little video about it, I was thinking, this maybe they'll help me move just a little bit because it's been so. But like you said, I do feel like it's like I'm gonna read the book and see what I can glean from it. Yep. I'm not trying to change my beliefs. I know. That's good. I would just say that. Like that.
Watch this woman right here. I watched her to see if she was a Scientologist. She is going to walk past the Scientology door, but I didn't notice this in real time because again, when I'm interacting with somebody on the street, I'm really paying attention to them. But watch this woman with the pink backpack.
Be very wary is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, but thank you. I mean, some people wouldn't care enough to even say, hey, don't keep this in the back of your mind and remember. So I appreciate you. And I've got your card. What's your name?
Thank you. My name is Paul.
Hi, Paul. My name is Alpha.
Very nice to meet you. Alpha?
Yeah, I'm an information, a little bit of an information junkie when it comes to grief and loss, because I feel like there's so much going on.
Absolutely, yes.
So any little bit I can do to help me, that maybe I can help somebody else, but I'm not trying to change.
Excellent. I appreciate that.
It's information.
Yes.
Thank
you.
I
will tell you, again, it's common sense. They're going to try to tell you that the reason that you feel better is because of that book. You could have found it anywhere else on the book, anywhere else on the internet to say, what are ways that I can better about grief?
Danette, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. The positive affirmations really energized me to keep doing this. Now I'm going to tell you that even if we weren't getting the positive affirmations, I believe in what I'm doing, and I would keep doing that. I'm not sure if the sound came through great, but as she's talking, she says, hey, I'm not looking to change religions, which was great. And again, the entry-level books of Dianetics, I'm sure that I'll get an argument, but I would say that they're kind of innocent in the idea that they give you common sense, practical help guides. Now, you could have found them anywhere else. Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard, he plagiarized just a boatload of his stuff. So everything that is Scientology, it really came from something else. I do think that I engaged with her. I do not believe that she'll move forward. She's going to read this book. And again, I have people learn for yourself, get the information for yourself. I did explain to her what's going to happen next, and I'm very confident that that's what will happen the next time she comes to the org. So she'll recall what I just said as, oh my gosh, the guy on the street said that's exactly what you're going to do, and this is what you're doing. So I know it seems strange that I'm talking to these people in this way, but I think I reached this person. I do not believe that she's going to move forward with Scientology. Okay. After that, yep, we've talked. About 10 minutes later, one of the Scientologists comes up the street, and I wish I would have gotten this on camera, but as they're coming up the street, we're looking right down the side. I apologize. They're coming up the sidewalk. We're looking down the sidewalk. At the time that the Scientologist and the next person that we're going to see in one of these interactions, at the time they're walking up, the woman would have been on our left-hand side, so on the outside or on the street side of the sidewalk, and then Izzy, the Scientologist, would have been on the inside of the sidewalk, right on the inside. Just before we get on camera, she takes the person and repositions them to put them inside the sidewalk, so that Izzy will be between me and the person that's coming up the street. So let's watch that. So they've already just they've just changed places. Originally, these two were in opposite directions. The person on the right with the American flag is a green recruit. Izzy is a Scientologist. She is one of the youngest recruiters. She was there the first night that I saw the recruiters in Chicago.
You allowed to talk about the church? Don't you think it's kind of culty that you can't talk about the church, but you're going to bring this new victim in? When you come out, please talk to me.
So just again, hopefully, I know that that woman came in and that definitely under the spell of what Izzy was saying, Izzy being the Scientologist, maybe they'll listen to me, maybe they won't listen to me in that space. The next real quick clip is going to be Anastasia, who Anastasia is usually at the desk during the day, and she's the one that comes and closes the blinds for me. At this point, the blinds are already closed, but the door's not closed. And you'll have to pay really close attention. Watch her as she comes out to close the doors.
Want the people on the sidewalk. Morning, Anastasia. Ooh, good yawn tech. Good yawn tech. Love it.
I'm going to pause it here because the music is coming through pretty clearly. I have both my mics on, which I made a mistake there. But you notice she yawned at me, right? Which is, we know that's a way to show her she's bored with what I have to do, right? A little later on, we see Chad show up at the org, but he's coming from far away. He's on the far side of the street. You would have just caught a glimpse of the red on the other side of the street, him walking across.
I wanted to go to the alley, but I'll wait here real quick, let him come across.
Hey, Rika. We're doing a little speed run of this morning's or this afternoon's run.
So you notice that instead of coming across, he's going to take the long way. Hi, Chad. How you doing today? Hope you're staying safe from the heat.
So he really should have crossed the street there because the org is on this side of the street and gone into the org. They have to give me such a wide berth and they move around me in such a way. He's going to go all the way down to the bottom of the street. He's going to cross the street. And not only is he not going to come up that next sidewalk, he's going to go around the back of the alley and he's going to come in the back door. We won't see him again, but it's always fun to see how that works. This next part it's one of my favorite things when they play peekaboo on, is it safe to go out and body route? Folks, for those of you who don't know, body routing is the way that Scientology does street level recruiting. They'll either try to have a conversation with somebody or they'll give them a pamphlet or some propaganda to try to bring them into the organization.
And the story about the son who took the life of the mother up. So, right, they're coming out to see if it's safe to body route.
Not sure if you just saw that, right? But you saw the first one to come out was Jessica. She came out to peek. And then Chad, who had just walked in, he came out to peek as well.
I don't know if you saw that,
And
right?
finally, we'll
So they
see.
both took a little peek out.
This is the actual body router we'll see today.
Give it a shot.
And I'm egging her on, right? Give it a shot. Maybe you'll get a flyer out today. Good luck. Hello, no one. How are you? We're just doing a speed run of today's fun at lunchtime. Thank you, Danette. We want to get awareness to all of these other channels. And thanks for coming in, Rika.
That's a pretty incredible superpower I have, right?
I just love that I can force them off the street.
It is.
And what you may not have heard this, but another person just walked by and he's got like a soccer outfit on. He goes, F them, but he used the full term. And he goes, oh, Scientology, they're terrible. They've ruined my life. They always try to recruit me. So I just thought that was fun. Okay. Now, about 5 or 6 minutes later, the woman that we saw that came out, howdy, Dan. The woman that we saw that came out, she had the red headdress on and was in the black suit. She's an African-American female. She's going to come out and she's finally going to work up the courage to come out and do some body routing.
She didn't want the flyer? No?
She tried to have a flyer. The person wouldn't take it.
It's really hard to pass out that culty stuff.
Another person doesn't want it.
How's Xenu doing today? Sure. Thank you very much.
Okay. She just handed me a flyer. I love this. We're now bypassing the middleman. No longer are we going to give it to the green recruits. Why don't I just give it to Paul? Because Paul's going to get it eventually anyhow. I just love this idea that, hey, you know what? It's easier if I just hand you this flyer. Now, I'm still going to give her a little bit of trouble in the next couple of minutes.
So today it's the season 6 Scientology version.
That was the flyer they were handing out on the opening day of season 6 of Scientology to get people to come into the org.
So reminding you as my audience, right, that Scientology is based on the idea that an ancient alien it's the cult of Scientology. You don't want it. You don't want that. Here, this will tell you all the crimes that they do. Can I have that flyer?
So we flopped flyer. I've given her flyer. She's given me a flyer. She's now going to pass it off to the woman in white.
It's the cult of Scientology.
This guy doesn't want one.
If you ever want to see any of the crimes of the church that just gave you that flyer, here's all the crimes that church commits. This is the crimes that church commits. That flyer you just got was from Scientology.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
All right.
It's somewhere.
Yeah.
So she said, yeah, I don't want that. It's going straight to the garbage. So it's in her purse. She doesn't give it back to me, but she goes, oh, that's going straight to the garbage. And I have handed her my flyer. So in just a second, we'll go and look at what, and when I say flyer, it's a business card.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay. So we were out there for about an hour. I would say that, right, we had 5 or 6 reasonable interactions here. I think we definitely helped that first woman who had come out. She felt great about buying the book. And again, I felt terrible because her spirits were so high. And just to let her know that, by the way, you just took a book from a cult and you spent money on a cult in this space. Let me go back real quick, and I want to go to my community page. This is when I say I gave them a flyer. This is a little business card. And on the one side, you've got the crimes of Scientology. And that scan is going to take you to a website. I'll show you that website in just a minute. But also, just in case people don't use their phone and go to that website right away, I want to list some of the crimes. And I think it's important that we attach real names to these crimes so that people can look up Serge Del Mar, Lisa McPherson, Rosemary Chickwak, the Chase Wave. And then the other page is the other side of the flyer is, hey, these are the things that Scientology doesn't want you to know. And then it's got xenu.net, which is a great resource. So with that resource, you'll be able to find all kinds of crimes and all kinds of stories about ex-Scientologists. Howdy, Auditing Scientology. Welcome in. Yeah, let's talk about that in just 1 second, about how different orgs look in this space. I also say on here, ask them about Xenu, because the vast majority of body routers are not moving up the bridge. So they don't know who Xenu is. And when you try to explain to them what Xenu is, they're like lost. They just have no understanding of what's going on there. And then I want to take you to one more page real quick. Apparently, I should probably try to. So this page is the scan page that they're going to land on, right? And it's got 5 or 6 stories right here. We've got, there's Ellie Perkins. She was, her life was taken at the hand of her son. Her son had mental issues. Rather than get him the help that he needed, they chose not to do that or to forbid him from taking those drugs. Eventually, he fell into a state where he, again, unalived his mother. This article is on the Chase Wave. This article is about how Serge Del Mar had to suffer listening to adults audit to him when he was between 12 and 14 years old. We've got the story of Miriam Francis, who her father sexually abused her when she was younger. And when that occurred, when Miriam was assaulted, she was moved out of the country to Australia. Her father was moved out of the country to England. And there's a great clip of Matt Pesh actually saying Scientology has a slush fund just for this thing, that when our people commit crimes, we want to make sure we can get them out. We need to get them on the first plane out of the jurisdiction as quickly as possible. So that scanned code that they get is going to land them on this page. All right. And then at the bottom is the rest of the blogs. There's many other items in there. Let's see here. If I go to the posts, right, we've got stories about Joe Sakala, Scientology's 8 dynamics, the Chicago staff, just several other posts that are in there. All right, let me pull that off. I was talking about how auditing Scientology, if you look at some of the orgs, they're set up so differently. Chicago, to me, it feels like Seattle and like Portland, where it's a nice window front retail location, and you can, their way of body routing is they're going to have to come out onto the street. They might just leave a sandwich board out there hoping that people come in, but that's the presence there. You look at Denver, right? Denver, there's that car parking lot, which is very much similar to the greater Cincinnati, that the people park in their cars, and for the most part, they can walk directly to the door uninhibited by anybody who's trying to protest. So if we have to raise our voices quite loudly, maybe they can hear us, but if they don't want to listen to us, they don't have to listen to us at that point. And then you've got the Clearwater. Now, Clearwater is an interesting place because, as the Scientologists will tell you, that is not a place where they recruit. They recruit other places in the world, and then they send you to Clearwater either for higher level training or because that you've decided you're going to become part of the Sea Org in that station. So the other place is right out in LA, where there's the large cluster of buildings out by L. Ron Hubbard Way. And the protesters, when they went out there in December, by March, maybe even before March, they really had the test center closed down. And the test center is when we talk about the test center in LA, that's a very compressed version of these orgs like Seattle, Chicago, Portland. I'm not sure if Kansas City looks like a test center inside. I don't remember seeing what that inside space looks like right there. So just want to do a quick little run through of what occurred today. It's a little bit easier for people who come to the channel to watch the speed plays instead of watching an hour of time to get the 20 minutes of nuggets that show up in that space. So anybody have any questions? Is there anything that anybody says, hey, Paul, why don't you think about doing this? Or would you consider doing X? How can I get involved? By the way, if you're in Chicago, in or around Chicago, and you want to get involved, my email is always available. Let me go ahead and bring that up. I am fairly responsive to this. If you're ever in town and you'd just like to kind of hang out in front of the org, let me know. I'll try to help you with any questions you might have. I don't know all the answers. I just know the things that have worked for me so far. Oops. So the video was definitely Chicago. Different orgs have different spaces. Like I said, that California and Florida, Clearwater and Hollywood, those are I think it's class 12 orgs, but that's where you can get high level training, high level confidential training, and that's also, they both have C orgs in those places. This, by the way, any place that they do body routing of this nature. So if there's somebody out there trying to hand out a flyer, everything I've done works absolutely the same everywhere you go. Now, the blinds are something that I always bring down at the org as well, and Audit Scientology is telling us the same thing. It's a very retail-looking space, and then they pull the shades. But what she's saying is right, there just isn't the foot traffic there. And by the way, it's been really, really hot here in Chicago, so it's not high foot traffic, but there is foot traffic here in Chicago, especially if it's moderate weather. These are very, very dense foot traffic locations. Let me pick up Audit Scientology's other one. So, but even on First Fridays when there's more foot traffic. Okay, yeah. Now, one thing that they're starting to do, and maybe it was just a bad run of luck for me recently, on Sunday, there was a body router that came out, and I told him, hey, you better as well go back in there right now. But he actually took me on a wild goose chase. We walked 2.5 miles away from the org. The good news is I got my steps in, and I have a second channel called Windy Wanders the City. So I got an awful lot of video footage for the other channel. So I made money while we were walking away. In the future, I won't let them walk me that far away from there. I also know that we've seen them, if I'm causing them a lot of trouble in the local area, they'll put people in cars and then ship them off to other neighborhoods so that right by car, I can't follow them quickly enough in this space. There are some call to action phone numbers. I'm not going to list my, thank you. Lorraine knows my call to action phone numbers, right? So who do you call in Chicago? Who do you call in the state of Illinois in these spaces? Let me read this. Do the different cities communicate with each other with you? Could California? Yeah, California could use the exact same card. As a matter of fact, Tori would be Tori Magoo 44. And by the way, if you haven't, go subscribe to Tori Magoo 44. She does. Oftentimes she'll be out protesting, but her forte is she'll do Tori after midnight. Now, one thing I want to warn you, it's after midnight in California, so it's god awful in the morning here on the East Coast or in the Midwest. But she's an ex-Scientologist. She used to be OSA. She's incredibly knowledgeable. And she's just amazing in regards to that. But yes, they could use the same cards. I would just say, hey, change out the YouTube on the bottom. And yes, it will come to my page, but you'll still see the same articles, right? And by the way, the thing that I like about that barcode is that I can keep on changing these articles on my homepage, right? Or the landing page there. Let me go one other thing. We do all communicate. Some of us have emails back and forth. Some of us will phone call one another. I want everybody to understand that we are a network of independent people that are really trying to stop this, because one of the things you don't want to look like is an organized group, because then you create a different attack surface for whether it's the police or Scientology to come at you as a gang or come at you with a RICO type charges in that space. Now, there's another part of this which you didn't ask, but I'm going to answer. No other org knows about me. It would be absolutely impossible for any other org to know about me, minus the fact that I've visited 2 orgs in California, up in near San Jose, California, and I've also visited the greater Cincinnati org, but no place else. So Scientology is a very siloed communication process. So they're not going to tell you that other places have problems. They're going to tell you, you're the only organization that has a problem. Go deal with it in that situation. Oops. This one. Yes. Now in California, the LA has a community discussion board where the police and community members go, and you'll often see Jessica Streets LA as William Good. William Good really is who kickstarted all of this protesting or in-person protesting. Most of the ex-Scientologists had panel shows, and they would discuss things that go on or bring up topics in the news, help us understand why what was happening in the news was important. There's a group in Chicago, I think it's called CPAP. Now, I know that there's also a medical device for people that have sleep apnea there, but that is a citizens action board where we can talk to the police and the citizens about these types of things. Annette, glad to have you in here. Again, I appreciate that you do comment. Folks, if you are still listening, if you comment to the video afterwards, that's very helpful for the algorithm. It shows engagement and it shows that there's some quality in this video. By the way, I hope you believe that to be a true statement, but even if you don't, please do that. Absolutely. Queen Suki, I work in the IT industry, so I am up in Northern California quite a bit for conferences. And we were in Los Gatos. We went to the Los Gatos org, and we went to the Silicon Valley org the last time that I was up there. Yeah, Dan, so that's the Hollywood version. There are Chicago versions as well. There's a neighborhood version up here, which I'm aware of. I know there's got to be one for Printers Row. I just don't live in the Printers Row area, so I just don't know when that meeting takes place. What else do we have here? Howdy, Dave. Folks, in about 40 minutes, our man Dave has a live coming up. Dave, what's the topic tonight? Folks, Dave and I have what I would say are complementary styles. We both appreciate what one another does, but Dave has been somebody who has studied Scientology as a never in, but since the days of Tom Cruise dancing around on Oprah's couch, he was interested in it, and he's a librarian, so he can collect all of these books. He's going to tell you just the same. Never buy the books from Scientology. If you go to eBay or Craigslist or any old bookstore, you can find these books for pennies on the dollar. So tonight it's brainwashing lists in the cult. So one of the things that's really important to Scientology is that they really do brainwash you in regards to what's going on. They strip away the self and they replace that with the group so that you can only exist as part of the group. in this space. So that's these are interesting elements, and Dave just has an awful lot of information and assets that whether he'll read through it. He did a very large series on the Lisa McPherson Trust and Lisa McPherson, who we spoke about. We maybe didn't speak about Lisa McPherson, but Lisa McPherson, her death was hastened by the cult of Scientology. She was in a vehicular accident. She had a psychological break. The police took her to the hospital. Whether you call it a 5150 or a psych eval, she was brought into the hospital to be looked over, right? Scientology caught wind of the fact she was in the hospital. They went to the hospital. They talked her into leaving AMA against medical advice. She went back to the org. They put her on Dave will have to correct me, I think it's called the introspection rundown. And so basically it's, I'm going to leave you alone and let you stew with your thoughts, which is the worst thing in the world you want to do with somebody that's having a psychological or mental problem, to let them compound that thinking on themselves. When about 17 days later, she went into crisis. They attempted to get her to the hospital. They made another mistake at that point in time. Scientology didn't take them to the nearest hospital. They took them to a hospital which had a doctor who was a Scientologist and therefore an ally and could kind of smooth over any discrepancies that might have occurred as Lisa McPherson shows up. I believe that she was declared DOA when she gets to this hospital. There were plenty of marks on her body, scratches to the skin, tears of the skin of that nature. During the autopsy, they said it was very obvious that she had been bound. So she had been bound. She had been kept in solitary confinement in a room, probably locked in a room for those 17 days. So that is just one of the lovely practices that this church undergoes in order to help their parishioners. By the way, none of that is helpful. That there is no way to think that her death was not hastened by, if not caused by, Scientology. Thank you, Nolan. By the way, Dave and I are very, very fortunate. There are several people who have incredibly good knowledge about how the cult works. Nolan, Patrick Skinner, and again, a shout out to the mods, right? Lorraine, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for helping get all the information out that we need to get here. Definitely, I appreciate what all of the mods are doing for us. So if there's any more, and by the way, I can make up answers to any questions you guys want me to. But if you've got any more questions, let me know. I would say that definitely set a reminder for Dave in 35 minutes. He'll be live talking about the brainwashing lists of the cult. No, you're welcome. No, thank you again. Thank you again. I really appreciate that. I'm going to ask you to rephrase this because there are books that you can read to learn about Scientology as a Scientologist. By the way, be very careful with those books. And there are books that you could read that would tell you the reasons why you should not be in Scientology. So the anti-Scientologies, I think Going Clear is probably the one that everybody would probably propose. But you've got Barefaced Messiah. In that space, the starter books, Scientology is going to tell you to read Dianetics, and I will tell you, Dianetics. The full title of the book Dianetics is Dianetics: the Guide to Modern Mental Health. It's something of that nature, and I'm sure that I'll see 7 or 8 people put in there real quick. But Dianetics is the first book that he wrote. And originally, it was really supposed to be hey, here's a way that we can help people with their mental problems. Well, the Scientology and the psychiatry and psychology fields looked at those books. Thank you. Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health. That the psychiatrists and psychologists read the book and debunked it for the most part, immediately. The vast majority of real doctors and real scientists said, this is a bunch of malarkey. We can't do this. Well, it was at that point that that Mr. Hubbard changed his point of view, and he went on the attack against psychiatry and psychology. And I'm going to ask Dave for another favor. There is an LRH policy, something like go to war, and that was in the mid 70s. And that go to war policy was just this is early in the Scientology organizational process. So it was Scientology was an amoeba. It didn't know what it really wanted to be yet. And what this go to war was, it was just explicitly, we need to get rid of all psychiatrists and all psychologists in the world, right? And it was the go to war proclamation against psychiatry and psychology. And Mark Bunker just released. Mark Bunker is somebody who 20 years ago, he was in the anti-Scientology movement. He and Tory, it was funny. Early on, he and Tory were adversaries, and very shortly afterwards, Tory came out, and he and Tory were compatriots in regards to the anti-Scientology. But he just re-released a video on the person that I spoke to on here, Ellie Perkins, right? And one of the things you're going to see in the Ellie Perkins is they talk to a person who is the head of the CCHR, Citizens Committee on Human Rights. CCH, yeah, I think it's something like that. But their big thing was, why in the world would you put people on drugs? Right? That doesn't help. So Scientology doesn't believe that chemical balancing drugs are helpful in this world, and it was always their stance. So the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. Thanks. Yeah, if I played horseshoes or if I had hand grenades, I would be really, really good. But if you listen to this person, and she says it with entire conviction, why would you put people on drugs, right? Why would you cloud their minds? Why would you put them at ease? Why would you change their mood? Why would you change their behavior? And we just know, as a medical community, it is a almost universal thought that these drugs help, right? These drugs help people have productive lives. They help people not have schizophrenic breaks, mental breaks, go off the deep end. I'm not a doctor, and I'm using terms that I would say are layman's terms, but CCHR is also one of the front groups. If you look at CCHR, they're headquartered in either a building in they're either going to be headquartered in a building in Hollywood, or they're going to be headquartered in a building in Clearwater. The same thing with the Youth for Human Rights, the Narcanon, Criminon. All of those organizations are ways to safe point the community and their front groups to say, see, we do good things. But if you actually look at what they actually do just as terrible things as Scientology does. Like, again, that CCHR, you would think, oh, human rights. They're going to be out there making sure that people get fair trials and that people can speak up and people can get lawyers, that you've got the First Amendment rights that everybody's got. That's what human rights is, right? Nope. It's going to be almost 100%. Don't go to psychiatrists. Don't go to psychologists. Don't take drugs that alter your mind, right? So that's their perception of what helping human rights is. Yeah. And by the way, England has taken a much more stern stance on Scientology. There are several places around the world where Scientology is absolutely forbidden, Russia being one. And it's one of the reasons why you see an influx of Eastern European Scientologists, is because it's a great recruiting ground if you can't actually practice it. If you can't actually practice Scientology in Russia, well, let's get the people to come to the United States to practice it. So, yeah. I think it's as far as outlawed in Germany. Wait, it can't be, because I know that there are still orgs in Germany. Is it that it's just not religious? It's and probably not charitable in Germany. Okay, before I keep on making up stuff, any more questions? Or are we ready to go make some popcorn, get ourselves a beverage, and get ready to go listen to Declared Dave? Folks, I appreciate y'all coming in. Oftentimes, I wish I would do it more frequently. I didn't really have a lot of good highlights in the last couple of days, but today I thought we had enough highlights that we should do a speed run. And I want to get back to doing the speed runs a little bit more consistently on this process. So thank you, Lori. I saw you come in there. Yeah, Sharon kind of nailed this, that almost all of the things that L. Ron Hubbard does wrong are the things that he tells everybody else not to do, right? He was, he, by his own definition of who can take the bridge, he can't take the bridge because he did partake in, I'm pretty sure it was LSD, but let's say he was partaking in drugs with Crowley McAllister and or Alistair Crowley, whatever the name was. He was taking part in those mind-altering drugs. And his claim then is you can't go up the bridge if you've ever taken mind-altering drugs. And so L. Ron Hubbard is the first to have done many things. He's the first Eagle Scout, if you ask him. He's the first person to have studied nuclear physics, if you ask him. And he was the fastest person to ever go up the bridge. However, he's the only one that was allowed to go up the bridge after taking a mind-altering drug. So, funny man. And the poor fella never had a toothbrush. All right. Oh, you know what? Thank you, Hammock Lady. That's a new name. Hopefully you've, well, if I haven't seen you before, I apologize, but it's a new name to me. Just a reminder, folks, when I'm out on the street, I can't pay attention to the chat as much as I can here. Like here, I can read every message and I feel pretty comfortable and calm about what's going on here. If you were to watch, right, if you go back to and watch this replay, very early on, I had a 10-minute conversation with that woman. During that period of time, I couldn't be watching chat. And it's another one of those things where I really rely upon the mods, and the mods make sure that they're reminding you that, hey, the reason he's not responding is he's paying attention to what's going on in the street. He's not mute. He's not he's not intentionally ignoring you. He's just got something going on over there. So, all right, folks. You know what? I'm going to leave you with one more thing. You had the email address. By the way, if you use that email address, I'm very good at responding to that. If there's a question in there or something that I feel comfortable with, if you're going to ask me for my address or you're going to ask me for a phone number, I'm probably going to say no. But pretty much anything else, I'll say yes to. These two URLs, they go to the exact same place. So wctw.live or windycitythetanwatch.com. That will take you to the site that we saw earlier, right? Let me see if we bring that back up real quick. Right. So that is this homepage, right? And if you're over here, right, you can go to the posts, and that's going to show you some of these blog articles that we can talk about. And then on the Contact Us page, if you ever want to chat with me, here's another way to get a hold of me, right? windycitythetanwatch@gmail.com is going to be the best way to get a hold of me. Oh, how do I get rid of that banner? Undo. Okay. I, for real, am now going to say, go make your popcorn. Go get ready. We're going to go see Dave. Let me bring Dave's channel up over here. head over to Dave, and we're going to watch The Cult of Scientology Exposed, Scientology Brainwashing. I'm glad this is helpful. And again, I need to get back in the habit of doing the speed runs, because again, there are times when I'm out there for 8 hours, and for me to think that somebody's going to watch an 8-hour video is ridiculous, and I don't want to put you through that. And there will be time. The other day we watched somebody walk for an hour. Now, I will tell you that you saw some pretty cool parts of Chicago, but I can understand how else somebody would be disinterested in watching somebody walk for an hour and a half. All right. Let's head over to Claire Dave, and I'll see you very much. We'll get you after work.